You step out of your insula and into the street. The jar now empty, your stomach never truly full. The road before you is narrow, flanked by tall apartment blocks leaning precariously over the cobblestones. Laundry lines stretch between windows above, dripping drops of water on the passers-by. Dogs bark as carts squeeze by, their wooden wheels shrieking against the stones and forcing you to press against the wall. Already the city feels alive in a way that is overwhelming, and you know the market is calling, because everyone must go there at some point for food, for gossip, or simply for survival. You join the crowd, your feet shuffling over uneven stones while the sun begins to bake the rooftops. Down here in the shadows the air is cooler, heavy with smells. The closer you come, the stronger they grow. Fresh bread mingling with the sour rot of spoiled fruit. Spiced wine competing with the stench of unwashed bodies. Fish laid out on wooden stalls with cloudy eyes and scales that still catch the light. The market is chaos. Stalls press against one another under cloth awnings, while merchants shout above each other, their hoarse voices offering olives, warm bread, wool for tunics. The crush of bodies is immense. Men in simple tunics elbow past women carrying baskets. Children dart through the gaps. Beggars rattle bowls for coins, and a soldier pushes roughly through, armor clinking, no one daring to block his path. For you, survival here means more than just buying food. It means guarding your few coins, protecting your body, avoiding conflict. Thieves are everywhere, their hands slipping through the crowd as quick as shadows. At the baker's stall, the smell is almost enough to soften your hunger. Round loaves stacked with crusts blackened from the oven. You hand over your few coins for one small loaf. The baker silent as he drops it into your hands and turns away. It feels lighter than it should, and you tear a piece slowly, chewing it as long as you can while your stomach begs for more. Around you, others haggle and shout. A woman yells that her bread is burnt. A man curses that his coins were cheated. But the baker ignores them all. At the butcher's stall, hunks of meat hang from hooks, dripping blood onto the stones while flies buzz lazily. The butcher's knife cracks through bone, the smell choking, but you know this food is not for you. It is for the rich who can afford such luxuries. For most like you, only beans, onions, and lentils fill the stomach. You move to the cheaper stalls, picking through baskets for what is not yet rotten. All around you voices rise and fall. A merchant swears the emperor himself passed through this forum yesterday. Another insists grain prices will rise. Children laugh barefoot in puddles. Slaves strain under the weight of baskets. And old men mutter about the glory days. Then you feel it, the brush of a hand at your belt, the sudden tug. You spin, catching only the flash of a boy's back as he darts away laughing. Your purse is still there, but your heart is pounding. Nearby, another man shouts in anger, grabbing at a stranger as fists fly. A crowd gathers, some cheering, some jeering, until soldiers appear and scatter them like birds. The thief is gone, the victim left shaken, his goods spilled across the stones. This is Rome, and here survival means vigilance every moment. Exhausted, you make your way to a fountain at the edge of the forum, its carved spout trickling water into a mossy basin. You rest against the stone, your basket beside you, splashing the cool water on your face while others also pause, women with children, old men with staffs, a dog curled in the shade. Even here, the noise never fades. A man sings badly, trying to sell his cheap wine. Another bangs a drum, somewhere a flute plays a reedy tune. Rome is never still. By the time you leave the market, your basket is only half full. A loaf of bread, some beans, a few onions. It will not last long, but it is all you could carry, all you could afford. Your arms ache, your stomach still feels hollow, and the sun blazes above, making the stones hot beneath your feet. The streets are crowded, the smell of waste stronger now, and you begin the walk back to your insula. Already you feel how hard this life is. A single morning in Rome has left you tired, hungry, and weary, and yet the day is not even halfway done. The afternoon will bring new struggles, new dangers, and you begin to realize that surviving even one day in ancient Rome may be far harder than you ever imagined. You leave your insula behind and step into the Roman street where the day has grown louder and busier with every passing moment. The buildings lean over you as though they might collapse, tall walls pressing the light into narrow beams across the stones. Your sandals scuff against the uneven ground, worn smooth by thousands of footsteps. The smell of smoke drifts down from upper floors where families cook their midday meals, while the smell of waste seeps up from the gutters, where everything that cannot be used has been tossed. The streets are alive with voices and movement, every sound tangled with another. Ahead, the market square spreads out like a restless sea. Crowds of people churn in every direction. Merchants shout over one another, waving their hands towards stalls stacked with food or cloth. Children run between legs and vanish, their laughter mixing with the curses of those they bump into. The air here is thick, carrying the sweetness of figs beside the sharp stink of fish, the dry scent of grain beside the metallic bite of raw meat left in the sun. Everywhere you look, hands are exchanging coins, goods are lifted and inspected, and arguments break out over the price of even the simplest onion. You move slowly, trying to guard the small purse tied beneath your belt, for you know how quick the fingers of Rome can be. You pass the baker's stalls, the heat of their ovens spilling into the street, and the sight of fresh loaves pulls at the hollow ache in your stomach. Crusts blackened by fire, centers soft and steaming. But even bread feels heavy against the weight of your few coins. You buy one loaf, its surface hard, and clutch it tightly as though someone might snatch it away. You chew a piece slowly, stretching the taste, while men beside you complain loudly that flour is being stolen before it reaches the city. The butchers shout from behind their stalls, knives flashing as they split carcasses and hang them in strips. Blood drips to the stones, pooling in the cracks where flies gather, buzzing so loud it seems like part of the market's voice. The smell makes your stomach twist, but you know this meat is not for you. Slaves carry it off in baskets to the houses of the wealthy, while ordinary men like you settle for beans, olives, and lentils that keep hunger quiet if not satisfied. You find a cellar with baskets piled high with vegetables, many already soft and turning, and choose what you can, knowing you will cut away the rot later. The market presses in tighter as the day wears on. A man bursts into shouts, accusing another of cheating him. Their voices rise until a crowd gathers, cheering and mocking until soldiers appear, iron helmets gleaming, and the crowd scatters like frightened birds. You keep your head down, for the soldiers are as dangerous as the thieves, quick to strike anyone who looks at them too long. When you stop at a fountain, your hands aching from the weight of your basket, you see a woman washing her child's face, the boy's laughter carrying over the splash of water. For a moment you envy the ease of his joy. By midday the heat presses down on every stone, on every body moving through the square. Sweat trickles down your neck, dust clings to your feet, and the loaf of bread feels lighter though you have eaten little of it. A beggar reaches out with a trembling hand, eyes clouded with blindness, whispering for a coin. You hesitate but pass by, because survival leaves no room for generosity. Your basket is not full, yet it is all you can afford. And even now you worry how long it will last. As you leave the market behind, the streets narrow again and the roar fades to a dull hum behind you. Still, the smell clings to your clothes. The sounds echo in your ears, and the sight of the crowd stays in your mind. Rome is vast, restless, never silent. Already your body aches, and the day is only half done. Survival here is not just a matter of food or water. It is a matter of endurance, of watching every step, every coin, every glance. And as you walk back toward your insula, you know this is only the beginning of what one day in ancient Rome demands from you. The sun has begun to tilt higher, burning into the streets with a force that makes every step heavier. You return from the market, your basket hanging from one hand, and climb the narrow stairs of your insula once again. The wood creaks beneath your weight, and dust drifts down from the cracks above. But you keep climbing until you reach your small room. Inside, the air is thick, hotter than the street, for the stone walls trap the heat like a cage. You set the basket down, take another piece from the bread, and chew slowly while staring at the bare walls around you. The room offers little comfort, only shelter from the crowds outside. Soon you must leave again. Work waits for no one in Rome. You are not a senator, not a merchant with wealth, not one of the fortunate who can rest in shaded gardens. You are a laborer, one among thousands who move the city with their backs and hands. You take your tools, worn smooth by years of use, and step back onto the street where the dust rises with every footfall. The worksite lies beyond the market, near the edge of a road where new buildings rise. The city is never still. Always something is being repaired, built, or torn down. You join a line of men hauling stones, each block rough and heavy. The overseer shouts constantly, his voice cracking with anger, and his whip dangles at his side as a warning. You bend low, press your shoulder against the weight, and move slowly with the others. Sweat pours down your face. Your muscles tremble, yet there is no pause. No rest except for a swallow of warm water when the overseer looks away. Around you, slaves work as well, chained together, their eyes fixed on the ground. Their hands bleed from the rough edges of stone, their shoulders scarred from beatings. Some are captured soldiers, others born into bondage. But here all are the same, bodies used until they can no longer stand. You wonder if your own freedom is truly much different, for your labor is bought just as cheaply. Your life bound by the coins that barely feed you. The hours drag like chains. The sun burns hotter, and your back feels as though it might break. The sound of chisels striking stone echoes, sharp and relentless. Dust fills the air, coating your tongue, your throat, your skin. When at last the overseer allows a pause, you drop onto the ground beside other men, your chest heaving, and share a look with them that speaks more than words. It is the look of men who endure because they have no choice. You eat a few olives from your basket, their salt biting your tongue, and drink a little water from the skin tied at your side. Around you, the city continues to hum, carts rolling over stone, merchants shouting, children calling to one another. Rome does not care for your struggle. It moves on regardless of your pain. When the overseer calls again, you rise with aching legs, lifting another block. The work continues, hour after hour, until the shadows grow long and the heat begins to fade. By then, your body is nearly broken, your hands raw, your throat dry. But the stones have been moved, the walls rise higher, and the overseer finally dismisses you with a grunt. You leave the site with nothing more than the same exhaustion you carried yesterday, and the knowledge that tomorrow it will all begin again. The streets are calmer now, though still restless. You pass men laughing outside taverns, their cups of cheap wine spilling onto the stones. Musicians pluck strings and sing of victories and gods, their voices rising above the din. But you have little energy for such things. Your thoughts are only of rest, of quiet, of the small room that waits for you at the top of the creaking stairs. As you climb once more into the insula, basket nearly empty, arms trembling, you lie down on the rough mat and close your eyes. The city still roars outside, voices drifting through the walls. But your body is too heavy to care. Tomorrow you will wake again to the same hunger, the same labor, the same struggle to survive a single day in Rome. For now, you surrender to the darkness behind your eyes, knowing the night will be brief and the morning merciless. The morning comes again, and with it the same sounds that never leave the city. The cries of vendors, the clatter of hooves, the grinding of cart wheels. Against stone, all weave together, into a single endless chorus. You rise slowly, your muscles stiff, the soreness from yesterday's labor still lodged deep in your bones. Hunger pushes you to move. You chew the last of the bread you saved, its edges hard now, and swallow with difficulty before stepping into the crowded streets once more. The air is heavy with smells both sweet and foul. The sweetness comes from fresh loaves baking in small ovens, figs piled high on wooden carts, honey dripping down clay jars. But those scents mix with others that churn the stomach. The stench of open drains where waste flows freely, the sharp rot of fish long past freshness, the sweat of thousands pressed too close together. In Rome, you breathe life and death with the same breath. You move toward the fountain, where the water runs clear from stone spouts. It is not free, and those who guard it demand payment. The line is long, filled with slaves carrying jars for their masters and poor families, with small cups in their hands. You wait as the sun climbs higher, its heat pressing harder on your back. When at last your turn comes, you pay a coin and watch as the water splashes into your vessel, cool and clean, though it will not last the day. Behind you, others press forward, impatient, desperate. From the fountain you walk on, weaving through narrow alleys where shadows cling between tall buildings. Laundry hangs overhead, dripping water onto your shoulders, while children run barefoot beneath, shouting and laughing. A group of men sits against a wall, their dice rattling across the stones as they gamble away what little they have. Some cheer, some curse, their voices echoing until a guard passes by, and then silence falls, broken only by the steady march of his sandals. At the edge of the forum, the city opens wide into its grand heart. Tall columns rise into the sky, casting long shadows across the square. Statues of emperors and gods stand watching, their faces carved in cold stone, unchanging, eternal. Here, the wealthy move with purpose, their robes bright, their slaves trailing behind with baskets and scrolls. You stand at the edge, the dust of your labor clinging to your skin, your clothes worn thin. You do not belong among these polished figures, yet you cannot help but watch as power flows around you. A herald begins to speak, his voice carrying over the crowd. He reads aloud new decrees, laws, taxes, punishments for theft and rebellion. The people murmur, some nodding, some scowling. You listen with half an ear, for such words rarely change your life. The burden always falls on the poor, while the rich grow heavier with wealth. You turn away, knowing that the forum may dazzle the eyes, but it offers no bread to fill an empty stomach. Beyond the square lies another kind of noise, the markets, where sellers call out from every stall. There are rows of spices that fill the air with fire, fabrics dyed in deep purples and reds, sandals tied neatly in pairs, and tools shining in the sun. Everywhere there is shouting, haggling, laughter, anger. Hands grab at sleeves, thieves slip unseen through the crowd, and guards try in vain to keep order. You push forward carefully, watching each step, clutching your small pouch tightly. A moment's distraction could mean losing all you own. As the day drags on, the heat grows heavier, and the stones underfoot burn through worn sandals. You stop at a small tavern to rest. Inside, the air is thick with smoke from lamps and the sour tang of wine. Men sit hunched over tables, their voices low, talking of debts, of crops, of distant wars none of them will ever see. You take a cup of watered wine, cheap but enough to dull the ache in your throat, and a crust of bread with a bit of goat cheese. The taste is simple, rough, but it steadies you. When you step outside again, the streets have shifted. Shadows grow longer, though the noise has not dimmed. Rome never truly rests. It only changes its voice. Children still run, sellers still call, carts still roll. The sky above glows with the fading light, and the day's heat lingers in the stone walls like a memory that will not release. You turn toward your room once more, your steps slower, your body weary. Tomorrow the same struggle will return, bread to find, water to buy, labor to endure. For now, the city hums around you, vast and indifferent, while you fade into its endless rhythm. Just another soul trying to survive another day. The evening settles, and the city shifts into another rhythm. The bright noise of the market softens, replaced by the sound of shutters closing and footsteps hurrying home. The sky above Rome glows in fading orange and then darkens to a heavy purple. Oil lamps flicker one by one, carried by hands that move cautiously through the narrowing streets. Shadows stretch long across the walls, and the air cools, though it still carries the dust and scent of the day. You walk toward the baths, for even the poor sometimes seek their comfort when coins allow. The bathhouse looms large, its stone entrance lit by torches. Inside, the sound of water echoes against high walls, mingling with voices in every tone, laughter, debate, whispers of politics, murmurs of business. You strip down and step into the tepidarium, the warm room where the air embraces you like a blanket. The heat loosens the tightness in your limbs, and for a moment the burdens of the day seem lighter. Around you, men discuss matters of importance, as though the fate of the empire rests upon their shoulders. Some boast of victories in trade, others complain of taxes or corrupt officials. Their words float over you like mist, but you remain silent, content simply to sit, to breathe, to exist in the warmth. When at last you move into the caldarium, the hot steam closes around you, stinging your skin and drawing out the sweat. It is almost unbearable, yet strangely cleansing, as though the city itself melts away from your body. After rinsing in the frigidarium, the cold water shocks your senses awake. You gasp, and the world sharpens again, the sound of dripping water, the scrape of sandals, the hum of endless talk. You leave the bath slider, though coins are fewer now in your pouch. Outside, the streets have grown darker, and lanterns swing from doorways. The city is alive in a new way. Taverns grow louder as night deepens. From open doors spill voices, music, and the clatter of cups. Men crowd together at rough tables, their faces flushed with drink, their laughter too quick, too sharp. Women move between them, offering wine, food, company. You pass by, watching the haze of smoke and the bright glint of firelight. For a moment you consider stepping inside, but the weight of exhaustion keeps you walking. In another alley, you hear a quarrel break out, raised voices. Then the crash of a clay jug against stone. A woman shouts, a man curses, and then silence follows, broken only by hurried steps retreating into the dark. Such moments are common here, and no one stops to question them. Rome is vast, and its heart beats with both grandeur and cruelty, often in the same breath. As you make your way back, you notice groups of slaves huddled together near the walls. Their whispers low, their bodies weary. They will rise again before dawn, to labor for masters who will never know their names. Their eyes meet yours for a fleeting second, filled with the same quiet hunger for something beyond this endless cycle. Then they look away, resigned, and you continue on. Your room awaits, simple and bare. The straw mattress scratches against your skin as you lie down. The sounds of the city drift through the thin walls, the faint notes of a flute, the creak of a cart rolling late into the night, the distant bark of a dog. The day has ended, yet the city does not sleep. It breathes on, restless, eternal, while you close your eyes and drift into uneasy dreams, knowing that tomorrow will begin the same way once more. The morning begins again, heavy with the weight of routine. The faint light of dawn pushes through the cracks of your dwelling, spilling pale streaks across the rough walls. Outside, the city is already stirring. The clatter of wooden wheels against cobblestones carries into your room, along with the sharp call of vendors preparing their stalls. Rome never sleeps for long. It only pauses, then rises once more with a hunger that never fades. You step into the streets, and the air is cool, almost refreshing. The scent of baking bread drifts from a nearby shop, mingling with the sharper odor of smoke and the staleness of refuse left uncollected. Children run past you barefoot, their laughter bright yet fleeting, swallowed quickly by the louder noise of the awakening city. Today, your steps lead you to the Forum. Here, the heart of Rome beats louder than anywhere else. Marble columns rise high, their pale stone catching the morning sun, casting long shadows across the square. Statues stand silent and stern, reminders of power, of gods, of emperors past and present. Beneath them, people move endlessly, merchants, orators, citizens, and slaves, all bound together in the chaos of daily life. An orator climbs the steps, his voice sharp and commanding as he speaks of taxes, of laws, of the empire's endless wars. His words rise into the air, drawing a crowd that shifts and murmurs. Some cheer, some scowl, but most simply listen with blank faces, their thoughts already heavy with survival. To live in Rome is to endure its voices, whether or not they belong to you. Beyond the speeches, the market spreads wide, alive with every color and every sound. Traders call out prices, their hands waving toward baskets of olives, jars of honey, rolls of cloth dyed in rich purples and reds. A butcher sharpens his knife, the scrape loud and steady, while blood darkens the ground at his feet. Beside him, a potter stacks his wares, clay vessels warm from the kiln, fragile yet necessary. You wander deeper, past stalls where spices scent the air, sharp and foreign, reminders of lands far beyond the horizon. Soldiers pass, their armor catching the light, their expressions hard, eyes scanning the crowd with practiced vigilance. People step aside for them, muttering under their breath but never daring to resist. A slave struggles under the weight of amphory, his shoulders straining, his breath harsh. He stumbles, and a merchant curses, striking him across the back with a stick. The sound echoes, sharp and cruel, but no one interferes. Life continues around him, indifferent. The slave rises again, silent, carrying his burden because there is no other choice. By midday, the sun hangs high, and the forum grows hotter. Shadows shorten, and the marble under your feet feels warm. The voices of the crowd blur into one unending sound, a tide of humanity that pulls you along whether you wish it or not. Every corner reveals another story, an old woman begging for coins, a boy chasing after a dropped loaf of bread, a senator carried in a litter, his face aloof, untouched by the struggles beneath him. When at last you step away, the noise lingers in your ears. The forum fades behind you, but its weight remains. Rome is alive, vast and unyielding, a city that devours every moment, every life, and leaves only echoes behind. You walk on, one among thousands, knowing that your story is but a thread in the endless fabric of the empire. You wander deeper, past stalls where spices scent the air, sharp and foreign, reminders of lands far beyond the horizon. Soldiers pass, their armor catching the light, their expressions hard, eyes scanning the crowd with practiced vigilance. People step aside for them, muttering under their breath but never daring to resist. A slave struggles under the weight of amphory, his shoulders straining, his breath harsh. He stumbles, and a merchant curses, striking him across the back with a stick. The sound echoes, sharp and cruel, but no one interferes. Life continues around him, indifferent. The slave rises again, silent, carrying his burden because there is no other choice. By midday, the sun hangs high, and the forum grows hotter. Shadows shorten, and the marble under your feet feels warm. The voices of the crowd blur into one unending sound, a tide of humanity that pulls you along whether you wish it or not. Every corner reveals another story, an old woman begging for coins, a boy chasing after a dropped loaf of bread, a senator carried in a litter, his face aloof, untouched by the struggles beneath him. When at last you step away, the noise lingers in your ears. The forum fades behind you, but its weight remains. Rome is alive, vast and unyielding, a city that devours every moment, every life, and leaves only echoes behind. You walk on, one among thousands, knowing that your story is but a thread in the endless fabric of the empire. The heat of the day presses down, heavy and unrelenting. The streets shimmer in the sunlight, dust rising with every step, clinging to your sandals and staining the hem of your tunic. The sounds of hammers strike from a nearby construction site, where men labor under the orders of foremen who shout to keep the pace. Stone is hauled, bricks are stacked, mortar mixed, and the skeleton of yet another Roman building rises slowly toward the sky. You pause to watch. The workers move with mechanical rhythm, their bodies glistening with sweat, backs bent under loads that seem too heavy to bear. Some are free men, desperate for wages to feed their families. Others are slaves, given no choice, driven by the crack of a whip or the glare of a taskmaster. Their hands bleed, their muscles ache, but the wall must rise, and so they continue. The foreman inspects the work, his eyes sharp for flaws. A brick placed unevenly earns a scolding. A dropped tool invites mockery. For those bound in chains, punishment is harsher still. You see one stumble, the weight of a stone too much for his trembling arms. He falls to his knees, and the foreman's staff strikes across his shoulders, forcing him up again. The crowd passing by glances only briefly before moving on. In Rome, cruelty is as common as bread. The air grows hotter, filled with dust and the acrid scent of sweat and lime. Your throat is dry, and so you wander farther until you find a fountain. Its water spilling from a carved stone face of a god. People crowd around it, women filling clay jars, children splashing their hands, men stooping to drink quickly before hurrying back to their labors. The water is warm, not clean, but it is life. Without it, the day would break you. Beyond the fountain lies another world, quieter but no less harsh. Fields stretch outside the city walls, where farmers toil under the same sun. Their lives are bound to the soil, their hands cracked and rough, their bodies stooped with years of planting and harvest. The work never ends. When one crop is gathered, another must be sown. The earth takes from them as much as it gives. And still they labor, because hunger leaves no room for rest. In the distance, shepherds guide their flocks, the bells on the animals ringing faintly. Their days are long, marked only by the rise and fall of the sun. They are far from the grandeur of marble temples or crowded forums. Yet their place is no less essential. Rome feeds on the backs of those who work unseen. As the afternoon wanes, you return to the city, where craftsmen continue their trades. A blacksmith hammers glowing metal into shape, sparks flying in the dim light of his workshop. The sound is constant, rhythmic, a heartbeat of industry. Across the street, a leatherworker bends over his bench. Stitching carefully, the smell of tanned hides thick in the air. Each man absorbed in his task, each creation destined for another's use. The hours of labor stretch endlessly, whether in fields, in workshops, or beneath the lash at construction sites. Every face you pass carries the same weariness, the same dull acceptance. This is survival in Rome. The city thrives on sweat and silence, demanding strength and surrender in equal measure. As evening approaches, shadows lengthen across the streets, and still the work does not end. Only when darkness falls will the tools be laid down, the carts unloaded, the stones left in place until dawn returns. Rome's hunger is eternal, and its workers, free and enslaved alike, are the hands that keep it alive. The day begins to soften as the sun dips lower, casting a golden haze over the stone walls and rooftops. Shadows stretch long across the uneven streets, and the once harsh light gives way to something quieter. Yet even as the air cools, Rome does not rest. The heart of the city beats strongest in the evening, when rules, manners, and status begin to press more heavily upon those who live within its walls. You walk slowly through a narrow street lined with houses, each doorway marked by symbols of wealth or poverty. At one end, a grand villa towers, its entryway guarded by marble columns and polished floors where servants scurry to prepare for the master's evening meal. At the other end, small cramped apartments lean into one another, their plaster cracked, their wooden doors splintered. Inside, families crowd together, sharing space, food, and silence. The divide between rich and poor is stark, and yet they are bound together under the same laws that govern the city. Rules are everywhere. They dictate how you dress, how you greet another, how you eat, how you walk, and even how you speak. Status is everything, and every interaction is measured against it. A free man must bow his head to one of higher rank. A slave must never raise his eyes in defiance. Women must move carefully, watched for signs of modesty or disobedience. Children are taught early the rituals of respect, learning to step aside, to lower their voices, to obey without question. The streets are filled with watchers, neighbors, rivals, strangers, all ready to notice a misstep. A word spoken too boldly, a gesture made without thought, can invite ridicule, suspicion, or worse. In Rome, punishment waits close at hand, woven into the daily rhythm of life. A man accused of dishonor may find himself dragged before a magistrate. A thief, caught in the act, may be beaten in the marketplace, his shame made public. A slave who falters may bear scars for the rest of his days. You pass under an archway where a small crowd is gathered. Their eyes fix on a boy, no older than 12, standing before a stern-faced official. His hands tremble as the charge is read, stealing bread. His mother pleads, her voice cracking, but the law is cold. The boy will be punished, not because the bread was precious, but because order must be preserved. Rome thrives on control, and every act of defiance is met with swift consequence. The crowd disperses with murmurs, some pitiful, some indifferent. You move on, the image lingering. Inside the courtyards of noble houses, another kind of rule is at play. Banquets are prepared, tables set with dishes of bread, olives, and roasted meat. Guests will soon arrive, and with them the careful performance of etiquette. Who reclines closest to the host matters. Who receives the choicest cuts matters. Every sip of wine, every laugh at a jest, every whispered word carries weight. To fail in these unspoken rituals is to risk shame. And shame in Rome clings like a shadow. Even in the baths, where men gather to wash away the day's dust, rules reign. The order of entry, the greetings exchanged, the tone of conversation, all remind you that freedom is an illusion, bound tightly by expectation. Step wrongly, and doors close forever. As night edges closer, torches flicker along the streets, their flames swaying in the soft breeze. The city grows quieter, yet the presence of rules remains. They shape not only the actions of the living but the thoughts that linger unspoken. In Rome, survival is not only about toil and hunger. It is about navigating the invisible web of manners, laws, and unyielding eyes that never look away. You breathe deeply, the air tinged with smoke and the faint aroma of meals, cooking behind shuttered windows. Around you, the city prepares to slip into night, but even in its rest, Rome watches. The night has fully arrived, and with it, the city takes on a different shape. The bright clarity of day has given way to torchlight and shadow, to the quiet steps of those who still move through the streets. Rome after sunset is both familiar and strange. It hums more softly, yet in its silence hides dangers and whispers that daylight would never reveal. You walk slowly, guided by the faint flicker of firelight. The cobblestones glisten with moisture from the evening air, uneven beneath your feet. The grand avenues that felt alive with noise only hours ago now stand hushed, echoing faintly with the occasional sound of a cartwheel or the bark of a distant dog. The city seems to breathe differently at night, slower and heavier, as if weighed down by its own secrets. For many, the evening is a time of retreat. Families gather in cramped homes, lighting small oil lamps that barely push back the darkness. Meals are shared quietly, children tucked into straw-filled beds, and the doors barred against the dangers outside. Walls may be thin, but within them is a fragile sense of safety. Beyond the threshold, the night belongs to others. There are those who thrive in the shadows. Thieves and wanderers slip through alleys, their eyes quick, their steps careful. A dagger glints briefly in the dark, then vanishes. Voices murmur low, deals made in corners where torchlight cannot reach. The night is a realm where rules loosen, where law bends, and where the vulnerable must tread with caution. You hear the footsteps of a patrol echoing faintly along the road, the clank of armor as guards march by with their spears. Their presence is meant to bring order, yet even they cannot pierce every shadow. Crime hides in silence, waiting for moments when watchful eyes turn away. Rome does not sleep, it only changes faces. In the courtyards of the wealthy, another world stirs. Banquets linger late into the night, laughter spilling from open windows as wine flows freely. Musicians pluck strings, dancers move with careful grace, and conversations grow bolder with each passing cup. Yet beneath the merriment is tension, the awareness of rank, of favor, of what must not be spoken aloud. Even pleasure in Rome is bound by the invisible chains of status. Beyond the walls of the city, the countryside lies dark and still. Farmers sleep in simple homes, their lives dictated by sunrise and sunset, their nights filled with the quiet sounds of animals stirring in their stalls. For them, Rome's grandeur and danger seem far away, though its laws and taxes reach even into their sleep. The night grows colder. You walk past a temple, its columns rising like silent sentinels against the starry sky. A few worshippers kneel at the steps, whispering prayers in hushed tones, their offerings left in bowls that gleam faintly in the torchlight. Faith does not rest, for the gods are believed to watch even in the deepest hours of darkness. As you move deeper into the night, the city reveals its dual nature, both magnificent and merciless. Safety is fragile, rules bend in shadows, and survival depends on where you stand and who you are. In Rome, even sleep carries unease. The city's heartbeat never stops, it only slows, waiting for the sun to rise again and the cycle of labor, law, and order to begin anew. Morning returns, but with it comes a different kind of heaviness. The city of Rome may appear bright again under the rising sun, but beneath its surface lies a network of rules, customs, and laws that shape every step of life. Survival here does not depend only on food or shelter. It depends on knowing how to behave, when to speak, and how to carry yourself in a society obsessed with order and control. From the moment you wake, you are bound by expectations. If you are a citizen, your clothing, your greetings, even the way you walk through the streets must reflect your status. A toga must be worn properly, its folds arranged with precision. For careless draping is seen as careless living. Your words must be measured, especially in the presence of someone more powerful. One slip of the tongue, one insult not swallowed quickly enough, and your reputation could collapse. Punishments in Rome are not gentle reminders. They are meant to teach lessons through fear. If you are a slave, your slightest mistake could bring lashes from a whip. If you are poor and accused of theft, the law offers little mercy. Public beatings, heavy fines, even exile are possible. The wealthy are spared the harshest punishments. Yet they, too, live under constant scrutiny. To break the wrong law, to challenge the wrong man, could lead to a swift downfall. Rules of society are everywhere. You cannot eat where you please, nor speak out of turn. In the marketplace, haggling too aggressively with a higher-born seller could mark you as disrespectful. At feasts, reclining in the wrong position, or failing to praise the host's wine, might close doors to future invitations. Even silence carries weight, for silence at the wrong time may be seen as an insult. The law itself is sharp and layered. Written codes are displayed for all to see, yet not all can read them. Magistrates interpret the rules. Senators debate their meanings, and guards enforce them as they see fit. Justice often favors those with wealth, yet everyone must bow to its presence. Rome takes pride in its law, but its pride is a burden for those who live beneath it. Children, too, are shaped by these rules from birth. A father holds absolute authority over his household. His word is law inside the walls of his home. He can command, punish, or even disown without challenge. To be a child in Rome is to live under the shadow of discipline, growing into a life already mapped by family status and social expectation. Even religion, a comfort to many, is bound by rules. Offerings must be made correctly, prayers spoken in the right order, sacrifices prepared with exact detail. To falter in ritual is to risk offending the gods and, in turn, the city itself. Faith is not only personal, it is public duty. A misstep in worship could bring shame, not only to you but to all those who share your blood. Walking through Rome, you feel the invisible threads tugging at every limb. You cannot move without being measured against standards written and unwritten. You cannot breathe without feeling the presence of laws and customs shaping your breath. To live here is to carry the constant awareness that one mistake, however small, may ripple outward and change the course of your life. And so, as the sun climbs higher, the city bustles with movement bound by invisible chains. Merchants call out carefully. Citizens speak with measured tones. Children follow the steps laid before them. Rome thrives on order, but that order is heavy, pressing on every shoulder. In such a world, freedom feels like a fragile illusion. For survival is not only about living, it is about obeying. Evening in Rome carries its own rhythm. softer in tone yet still bound by the weight of custom. As the heat of the day fades, families turn inward, preparing for the meal that defines the night. Dinner in Rome is not merely eating. It is a ritual, a display of wealth for some, a struggle for others. For the poor, the evening meal is humble, often no more than bread dipped in oil, perhaps lentils or a scrap of cheese if fortune is kind. They sit on stools or the hard ground, eating quickly before the darkness swallows the streets. Children crowd around shared bowls, their laughter muted by hunger. The taste is simple, the portion small, but the act of gathering together brings a quiet comfort. In the homes of the wealthy, the evening unfolds differently. Reclining on couches in carefully arranged dining rooms, guests and hosts perform the delicate dance of Roman etiquette. Servants move quietly, carrying trays of olives, fish, and roasted meats. Wine flows freely, but it must be diluted with water. Drinking it pure would mark one as uncivilized. Conversation drifts from politics to philosophy, each word measured, each gesture weighed. The dining room itself is a stage. To recline properly, leaning on the left arm with the right hand free, shows refinement. To fail at this posture is to appear clumsy. The order in which guests are placed reflects their rank, and the smallest misstep in hosting could invite whispers long after the night has ended. For those invited, it is an honor. For those excluded, it is a reminder of their place. Beyond the dining halls, the streets shift into a different life. Vendors still call out, selling what remains of the day's goods. Lamps flicker in doorways, casting narrow pools of light into the gathering dark. Music drifts from taverns, where laughter and argument mix with the smell of sour wine. In these places, men escape the weight of law and custom, if only for a few hours, their voices rising against the night. Baths, too, remain alive in the evening. Pools of heated water, halls of steam, and open courtyards invite citizens to cleanse the dust of the day. Here, social lines blur slightly. Merchants may sit near senators, soldiers beside philosophers. Yet even in the baths, there are rules. The order of movement, the manner of speaking. The very way one enters the water is marked by unspoken laws. The baths offer relaxation, but they also serve as another stage upon which Rome performs its endless play of order and expectation. As twilight deepens, the atmosphere shifts. The poor retreat behind their doors, bolting them against the dangers that rise with darkness. For the wealthy, carriages carry them to feasts, to gatherings where music, dance, and conversation stretch far into the night. Servants light torches along garden paths, and laughter spills into the air. Yet beneath the joy lies caution. Every glance, every remark may shape future alliances or rivalries. For slaves, the evening brings no rest. They move silently in kitchens, clearing dishes, scrubbing floors, preparing chambers for their master's sleep. Their bodies ache, yet their voices remain hushed. Any error, any moment of defiance, could bring punishment before dawn. Their lives belong to others, their evenings as restless as their days. And through it all, the city breathes together, its heart beating with the pulse of thousands of lives bound by the same rhythm. The wealthy dine, the poor endure, the slaves labor, and the night thickens around them all. Evening in Rome is beautiful in its rituals, but survival within it is a constant act of balance, of obeying rules too heavy to ignore. Night falls on Rome, and with it comes both stillness and unease. The last glow of twilight fades beyond the rooftops, and the streets, so full of noise in daylight, slip into shadow. Torches burn dimly in certain alleys, casting wavering light on uneven stones. But much of the city lies in darkness. The night belongs to those willing to risk it. For the poor, the night is a time of retreat. Families gather inside their cramped rooms, shutters closed, doors bolted. The sound of footsteps outside is enough to stir unease. Thieves wander in the dark, seeking whatever coin or bread might be stolen. Law enforcers patrol, but their presence is thin, and the city's size swallows their reach. In the poorest quarters, fear lingers in every corner. The night is less a time of rest and more a time of survival. In the homes of the wealthy, Night is marked by luxury. Lamps glow in courtyards, gardens echo with the strum of lyres, and fountains sparkle in the torchlight. Banquets stretch long into the hours past midnight, filled with performances, recitations of poetry, and whispered discussions of politics. Yet even in laughter, there is tension. Guests measure each word, weighing how it will be remembered, who will repeat it, and what alliances may shift as a result. To dine late into the night is not just pleasure, it is strategy. In taverns scattered across the city, the mood is looser, the boundaries less defined. Wine flows in rough clay cups, dice roll across worn tables, and songs rise against the heavy night air. Here, men from different stations mingle more freely, though not without risk. A quarrel sparked by a careless word can end with blood on the cobblestones, and the night offers little mercy. The slaves, however, cannot claim the night as their own. Their labor continues, cleaning halls, preparing for the next day's meals, tending fires that must not die. Some serve their masters until dawn, fanning them as they sleep or guarding doors against intrusion. The night grants them no escape, only more hours of silent endurance. Beyond the walls of houses and taverns, the city itself groans. Animals stir in pens, dogs bark at unseen shapes, and the Tiber glimmers under the moonlight. The river is restless, carrying away waste and secrets alike. Bridges arch over its waters, their stones cold beneath the passing of tired feet. For some, the river at night offers calm. For others, it whispers danger. Silence is broken only by the occasional cartwheel, the shout of a drunken man, or the cry of a watchman. Fires burn low in temples, smoke trailing into the night sky. Offerings are left by those who fear the unknown, small tokens to gods who might guard against theft, illness, or sudden death. And in the distance, the hills watch silently. Rome sleeps uneasily, caught between splendor and danger, between order and chaos. To live here is to live always on edge, even in rest. Night in Rome is not peace, it is the weight of a city that never truly. Night to return. The morning mist rises slowly above the rooftops, curling like pale smoke over the city. Rome awakens not with sudden noise, but with a gradual stirring, as though the great body of the city stretches itself into motion once more. The cobbled streets are damp, glistening faintly in the early light, and the air carries the mingled scents of bread baking, fires rekindling, and animals stirring in their stalls. You walk through the quieter lanes, and already the world is beginning its cycle of labor. Women step outside with clay jars balanced on their hips, their feet bare against the stones as they make their way to the wells and fountains. The splash of water fills the silence, their voices soft, carrying fragments of song or gossip. The day always begins with water, for it is both necessity and ritual, the breath of the city's life. Bakers rise earliest of all, and the warmth of their ovens spills into the streets. Flat loaves are stacked in neat rows, their crusts darkened from fire. Men and women line up, coins in hand, waiting for their share of bread, the food that sustains rich and poor alike. Bread is not merely food, it is survival, and the smell of it is the true signal that the day has begun. In the markets, merchants begin to arrange their stalls. Crates of olives, baskets of figs, amphorae of wine, and bolts of cloth are set carefully in place. The air grows lively with the clatter of goods, the bleating of goats, the braying of donkeys. Voices rise, prices argued before the day has even fully brightened. Rome is alive again, not only in body but in sound. The hum of work spreads into every part of the city. Slaves scrub the marble floors of temples and sweep the courtyards of wealthy homes. Farmers drive their carts loaded with produce through the gates, wheels rattling over stone. Children chase each other down alleys, their laughter echoing where silence had ruled only hours before. By mid-morning, the streets thicken. Senators are carried in litters toward the forum, their faces serious, their robes carefully arranged. Clients gather to meet their patrons, offering loyalty in exchange for protection or favor. Lawyers prepare to argue their cases. Scribes carry tablets heavy with writing. and philosophers linger in colonnades, their voices low but urgent. Rome in the morning is a machine in motion, its parts moving endlessly, each life caught within its turning. There is beauty in it, the golden light spilling over temples and arches, the voices rising in unison, the smell of warm bread carried on the air. Yet beneath it, there is also weight. For every loaf eaten, there are hands that labored through the night. For every senator carried to the forum, there are backs bent under the weight of the city's grandeur. The day has only begun, and already Rome demands everything from its people: their time, their strength, their silence, their obedience. The morning sun does not bring freedom. It brings duty. And so the city moves forward, step by step, as it has for centuries, endlessly alive, endlessly consuming, and endlessly waiting for night to return. By midday, the city of Rome reaches its peak. The sun hangs high above the tiled rooftops, casting hard light over the sprawling streets. Shadows shrink, and the air grows heavy with heat. The stones of the Forum glow pale and bright, and the voices of thousands rise into the open air like a ceaseless wave. Rome at noon is not a city, it is a storm of human energy. The Forum is the very heart of this storm. Senators gather beneath the colonnades, their discussions sharp, their gestures deliberate. Laws are proposed, speeches delivered, alliances whispered in corners. The marble steps ring with the footsteps of lawyers, petitioners, and messengers carrying wax tablets filled with urgent words. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, ink, and incense from nearby temples, where sacrifices continue in rhythm with civic debate. Merchants fill every corner of the marketplace. Olive sellers shout their prices. Spice traders display their treasures from distant lands, and cloth merchants unravel bolts of fabric dyed deep red and purple. Donkeys bray, carts creak under weight, and coins clink endlessly from hand to hand. Bargains are struck with voices raised and hands gesturing in quick agreement or bitter refusal. Among the crowd, entertainers weave through the chaos. Jugglers toss colored balls into the air. Flute players pierce the noise with sharp melodies, and acrobats perform daring tricks to capture the gaze of children and the loose coins of adults. Rome does not only feed the body at midday, it feeds the eye, the ear, the imagination. In the heat, fountains become places of refuge. Water spills over carved stone faces, splashing into basins where citizens dip their hands and splash their foreheads. Children lean close to drink, and animals are led to troughs nearby. The sound of water is a relief, a reminder that even in the busiest, loudest hour, the city cannot live without the quiet work of its aqueducts and fountains. For the wealthy, midday brings both labor and leisure. After attending to affairs in the Forum, many retreat to shaded villas where slaves serve cool wine and platters of figs, cheese, and honey. Courtyards bloom with flowers and small fountains, a contrast to the dusty streets outside. Conversations drift to art, poetry, and the rumors of political intrigue. Even in their leisure, the wealthy remain entangled in the unseen web of power. For the poor, there is little respite. The heat is endured, not avoided. Laborious continue their work, carrying stones, hauling water, sweeping streets, mending walls. Sweat drips from their brows as the sun presses down, but the work cannot stop. In every corner, survival demands effort. Bread bought in the morning is already gone, and the next meal depends on the strength to keep moving. The midday air is heavy with contradictions. It is a time of splendor and exhaustion, of triumph and struggle. Rome shines in the full glare of the sun, its greatness undeniable, its burdens inescapable. The noise, the heat, the movement, all of it combines into a single truth: the city never pauses. Not for the poor, not for the rich, not for the weary. Rome's heart beats strongest at midday, and every life is bound to its rhythm. As the afternoon stretches forward, the city begins to shift once more. The heat does not relent. It hangs over the streets like a weight, pressing down on bodies and minds alike. Yet Rome does not grow quiet. Instead, it changes its pace, adjusting to the hours between noon and dusk. The great machinery of the city continues to turn. but its movements grow heavier, slower, like a beast conserving its strength. Shadows lengthen, falling across the marble columns of temples and the cracked stones of alleyways. Vendors in the markets grow restless. Their voices are hoarse from shouting, their wares thinning as baskets and crates empty. Some close their stalls early, retreating to shaded doorways to escape the burning light. Others linger, determined to sell until the very last customer has passed. The streets, though still full, carry a different kind of energy. Citizens move not with the rush of morning or the urgency of midday, but with a weary persistence. Children no longer run with the same laughter as before. Instead, they sit on the steps of houses, drawing shapes in the dust or tugging at scraps of bread. Laborious, their tunics soaked in sweat, drag their carts back toward the outer edges of the city, their muscles aching from hours of toil. Within the homes of the wealthy, the afternoon is quieter. Curtains are drawn across open windows, and shaded atriums become sanctuaries of coolness. Slaves pour water into bronze basins, allowing their masters to wash away the dust of the streets. The wealthy rest on couches, some dozing lightly, others speaking in hushed tones. Music drifts faintly from lyres, a thin melody weaving through the air like a breath of relief. Still, even in these shaded retreats, the presence of duty lingers. Letters are dictated to scribes. Plans for feasts or political meetings are arranged, and statues are examined by artists, who hope to capture the likeness of their patrons. Leisure exists, but it is never free of expectation. Power demands constant tending, even in the calm of afternoon. In the poorer quarters, there is no such respite. The air is thick with the smell of smoke from cook fires, as families prepare their modest meals. Fish sizzles in pans, lentils bubble in pots, and the aroma of herbs mixes with the scent of sweat and dust. Neighbors share stories as they cook, their laughter light but edged with weariness. Children help where they can, fetching water, gathering wood, or carrying food in clay bowls. The public baths begin to fill as the afternoon wanes. Men and women alike gather to wash away the grime of the day, the sound of splashing water mingling with the hum of conversation. Here, gossip flows as freely as water, news from the forum, rumors of war, scandals whispered from the homes of senators. The baths are not only a place of cleansing, they are a place where Rome's people, high and low, become part of a single current, drawn together by ritual. By late afternoon, the city seems to hold its breath. The sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky with warmer tones, and the air cools by the smallest degree. Work does not stop, but anticipation builds. For as day turns toward evening, Rome prepares once again to transform. Soon the torches will be lit. The streets will fill with voices of leisure instead of labor, and the city will reveal a different face, one touched by shadows, mystery, and the promise of night. As evening draws near, the city of Rome begins to soften. The light, once harsh and golden, now falls gently across the rooftops, turning tiles into sheets of amber and bronze. Shadows deepen in the narrow alleys, and the voices of the city change tone. The shouts of vendors grow fewer, the pounding of hammers fades, and in their place comes the hum of preparation. Rome does not sleep yet, but it readies itself for a shift, a new rhythm that belongs to the coming night. In the homes of the wealthy, servants move swiftly. Oil lamps are lit one by one, their flames dancing against painted walls. Tables are prepared with polished bronze dishes, pitchers of wine, and baskets of bread. The aroma of roasted meats drifts into the air, mingling with herbs crushed fresh for sauces. Guests begin to arrive, their sandals tapping against mosaic floors, their laughter echoing in wide atriums. For these households, evening is a time of gathering, a time for display, a time to remind others of their status and refinement. Across the city, in more modest quarters, families gather in their own ways. Meals are simpler here, a pot of porridge, bread dipped in oil, a handful of dried figs. Neighbors sit close together in the fading light, speaking of the day's labor and the tasks that await tomorrow. Children eat quickly, their eyes growing heavy as they lean against their mothers. lulled by the warmth of food and the calm of nightfall. The streets, once choked with noise and dust, begin to clear. Yet not all grows still. Bakers, who rested in the day's heat, now begin their work. The scent of dough and fresh bread rises into the evening air, carried on the breeze through alleyways and plazas. Lamps are hung outside workshops, glowing against the walls like tiny stars. The sound of footsteps changes, less hurried, more deliberate, as those with leisure seek out taverns, bathhouses, or gatherings of friends. The city's bathhouses, especially the larger ones, remain alive with chatter. Lamps shine against marble floors, casting reflections in still pools. Men discuss politics and trade. Women share gossip of households and rumors from the palace. The sound of water, laughter, and conversation blends into a low chorus that carries into the night. For many, these hours of bathing and talk are more important than the meal at home. For here reputations are shaped and alliances are made. In taverns, the atmosphere is rougher. Wine flows freely, and the smoke of torches curls into the rafters. Merchants, sailors, and soldiers gather. Voices loud, cups raised, dice clattering against wooden tables. Songs are sung, sometimes joyous, sometimes mournful, and arguments spark as easily as laughter. Here, the divisions of wealth matter less. For a few hours, all share the same firelight and the same drink. As dusk deepens, Rome glows with firelight. Oil lamps flicker in doorways, torches line the streets, and braziers burn in open courtyards. The city that by day is driven by duty and survival now takes on a different life. One that belongs to conversation, to pleasure, to rest. Yet beneath this softer surface, there remains an edge. Shadows gather in corners, footsteps echo in darkened alleys. And not all who move through the night do so with harmless intent. The first stars appear above, faint against the fading blue. The air cools at last, carrying with it the distant scent of the Tiber, and the faint rustle of wind through tiled roofs. Rome, vast and unyielding, breathes deeply as it passes into night, alive with both peace and unease. The day has ended, but the city does not sleep, it only changes. Above it all, on the Palatine Hill, the residences of the elites stand in silence. Their gardens are lit by carefully placed lamps, their courtyards filled with the scent of flowers. Guards pace slowly, their spears catching glimmers of moonlight, while the wealthy within sleep on soft cushions, safe behind thick walls. The contrast between these tranquil spaces and the crowded, noisy streets below could not be greater, yet together they form the Rome of the night. As the hours stretch on, the city settles further. The taverns thin, the watchmen's patrols grow slower, and even the Subura begins to dim. The sound of Rome becomes softer, less shouting. Fewer carts, only the occasional distant cry. In the dark silence, the city breathes, waiting for the first light of dawn. Night in Rome is a time of both beauty and unease. It is a time of music and feasting for some, of fear and caution for others. Beneath the same moon, the city is divided by wealth, by safety, and by the simple chance of where one lays their head. And yet, in its own way, all of Rome shares this night, each corner of it, each breath of it, until morning comes again. Dawn returns once more to Rome. The horizon glows faintly, a soft line of gold stretching above the eastern hills. The city, which only hours ago was swallowed in darkness, begins to stir again. The silence of the night is slowly broken by the rhythm of daily life, returning, first with the cry of roosters, then with the creak of doors opening, and the shuffle of feet on stone streets. Rome wakes, as it has for centuries, in its own unchanging way. The poor rise earliest, their bodies heavy, from yesterday's labor and unrefreshed by sleep on hard pallets. Women move quickly to fetch water from fountains before the lines grow long. The sound of wooden buckets clattering against stone basins fills the morning air. Men gather tools for their day's work, spades, hammers, or baskets, while children cling to their mothers, rubbing tired eyes. These families have no luxury of lingering. Survival demands their movement from the very first light. In the marketplaces, merchants begin to set up their stalls. Crates of fruit, amphorae of oil, baskets of bread, and slabs of meat are arranged carefully, ready for the rush of buyers who will soon crowd the narrow lanes. The smell of fresh bread drifts from bakeries, mingling with the less pleasant odors of the city, animals, refuse, and smoke from countless hearths. Rome's heartbeat is in its markets, and by dawn they are already alive. In the wealthier districts, the morning unfolds more slowly. Servants hurry before their masters awake, lighting fires, preparing baths, and arranging clothes. When the elite rise, they are greeted by warm water, fine linen, and platters of fruit. Their homes are quiet sanctuaries compared to the bustle outside, shielded by walls and guarded gates. They do not fetch their own water or labor in the markets. The city bends to serve them, while they plan their day of politics, business, or leisure. As the sun climbs higher, Rome grows louder. The clash of hammers from workshops, the bray of donkeys pulling carts, the chatter of neighbors across balconies, all blend into the city's unending hum. Couriers move quickly through the streets, carrying messages between officials. Priests make offerings at temples, their chants rising with the smoke of incense. Students gather in courtyards to hear their tutors, voices reciting Greek and Latin verses into the morning air. But beneath the rising energy, a truth lingers. Rome is not gentle. Its streets are crowded, its air heavy with dust and odor, and its people live under constant strain. To survive here is to endure noise, filth, hunger, and the ever-present shadow of disease or violence. The wealthiest are spared some of these burdens, yet even they live with unease, fear of betrayal, of political downfall, or of sudden misfortune. As the morning brightens, so too do the contrasts of this world. The laughter of children echoes through alleyways where walls crumble and roofs leak, while across the city, polished marble reflects the sunlight into courtyards lined with fountains. The same dawn touches all of Rome, but its warmth is not felt equally. By midday, the struggles of the city will once again weigh upon every soul. Yet for now, in these early hours, Rome seems almost peaceful. The city exhales as if renewed, its people bracing themselves for another day. In a place of greatness and hardship alike, to walk through this Rome, to live in it even for a day, is to understand both its wonder and its weight. The empire's heart beats here, in every stone and every voice. But survival demands strength, endurance, and luck. Without them, one would not last long. And so, as another day begins, the lesson is clear. Rome is magnificent, but it is also merciless. To live within its walls is not simply to exist, it is to fight, to adapt, and to endure. For those who cannot, the city swallows them, as it always has, leaving only the echo of footsteps on its ancient streets.